Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. The Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Bringing you the latest from the world of daily fantasy sports and gambling, so you can stop Googling how to join a squid game to cover all those parlays you thought were such a sure thing. Now, sit back and listen to one of the sharpest minds in the game. Here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
Okay, let's get into it, folks. Sunday, fun day, and a lot to discuss, so not a lot of time, and a 14-game slate just to get into for this Sunday. Obviously, Happy New Year, everyone, and without much further ado, let's get into the NFL action. So, to start, we got a bunch of favorites who are in prime position to lock up playoff spots. We don't know, because obviously we have the Week 18 to factor in, how much they're going to give run to some of these players. So you have to kind of bear that in mind. So when I give out some of these picks, you're also going to have to kind of bear in mind your risk tolerance of how much these guys are going to play. So in the case here in Buffalo, you got cold weather. Bills are 14.5-point favorites, an Atlanta team that basically has packed it in. Not much going offensively. Yes, we had the Cordero Patterson earlier in the year. Not so much lately. Kyle Pitts, they haven't been able to figure him out. Russell Gage, cheap, but man, this Falcons offense stinks. The Bills need to win this game, obviously. They control their own fate in terms of the East. They got to win out to win the AFC East. I think they pound Atlanta here. 14.5-point favorites, though. I'll still back it, but it's not one that I'm really aggressively betting. This is one where I would more likely throw it into a teaser with some of these other huge favorites, because I can't see Atlanta doing a backdoor cover to get it to 14. Just getting it past 14, it's a little risky, but Buffalo should handle it here. From a DFS perspective, I like Gabe Davis at 5K on DraftKings. I like him on FanDuel as well, because I think he's become a touchdown target in the red zone, even taking away some looks from Dawson Knox. And Josh Allen, I'm not going to say you can't play Josh Allen. It's just one of those things. He has rushing upside. He throws. Yes, his accuracy is always going to be a question mark at times, but, dude still puts up numbers at the end of the day. He's better. I would say he's better in fantasy than in real life. I'll leave it at that. And I know folks think that's kind of harsh, but I just think that's the reality situation. But Bills should handle Atlanta here. I hate this Atlanta team with a lot of fiber, just a rough watch. This game should not be close. Okay, on the other side, we got New England, 15.5-point favorites against the Jacksonville team. Also, team likely have quit. The line has moved up. It was 15.5. Now it's at 17. You can't touch it at 17, in my opinion. Mac Jones isn't to that level yet where I would feel confident with him throwing enough, because New England's just going to keep running the ball on Jacksonville. And the issue with playing New England is the fact that you could end up in a situation where all three running backs in play, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and Brandon Bolden, they're all getting work. So to me, not nearly as appealing a fantasy spot, because I think they are likely to cannibalize each other and put themselves in an awkward spot. So that's where I think it's a tough one to kind of go in that space to dabble with New England, because I like the Pats defense, but I have no problem fading everything else in this game, because I don't see anything on the Jacksonville side. James Robinson hurt us last week, blowing out his Achilles. Speedy recovery to him. But there's really nothing on this Jacksonville side I have any interest in. So just keep it moving. My game of the day, Kansas City and Cincinnati. Different ways to approach this. You can approach it with Chiefs are on the uptick. They're in their Super Bowl push mode, and they lock down on a Bengals team that has probably the worst coaching staff in the NFL. They had the big win against Baltimore that everyone's raving about, but let's be honest with ourselves. The Baltimore secondary, it's XFL caliber what they trotted out there. It was the perfect matchup for Joe Burrow. He dominated him. He did what he needed to do. But listen, I still like Burrow in that passing attack against a Chiefs defense that's going to blitz, because we know Steve Spagnuolo from his time with the Giants. Spags loves to blitz, and Joe Burrow is very good at dealing with the blitz. Now, the question becomes, can he get the ball over the top in time to Jamar Chase? Because that's really what he wants to do. I'm not entirely sold on that, but I do have lots of pieces, so I like T. Higgins. I think he can play Tyler Boyd. The other guy I would also take a look at is CJ Uzoma in the 3K range, and he's also 5K on FanDuel. To me, I think you have to spread out, and this is more of an MME play when it comes to the Bengals, but I like the spot. It's just that I know people are going to gravitate towards the Chiefs, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I just think the Chiefs are so priced up for this matchup. I know the Bengals secondary isn't good. I know Zach Taylor screws up too many possessions, and that it'll likely lead to the Chiefs winning this game. And probably they probably might even cover this game. The spread's 3.5. It was 4. I think the Chiefs can win this game outright and win by a touchdown. But what I'm saying here is, from a fantasy production standpoint, I like the Bengals side more than the Chiefs side, because I think, yes, there's always the potential for Tyreek and Kelsey to go have ceiling games. No question. But if you're telling me which pieces have more chance to go off, I'm not as sold on Darrell Williams with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. I'm not as sold on that piece. And again, these are the Chiefs side, good floors. They have good floors. It's just with their pricing, I don't think they have the ceiling that the Bengals players have, because I think the Bengals can still get over the top on the Chiefs defense. And the Chiefs defense at 3K is an interesting play because they're going to have sacks. The Bengals have given up the most sacks in the league. So you have scoring potential with the Chiefs defense. So even with this game being high scoring, because this is a game with a 51 total, I think the Chiefs defense are still in play. That's the crazy part about all this. I think it's a high scoring game, and you can still consider the Chiefs defense if you can't play my defense that I will be locking in basically 80% of my lineups today. And the other 15 I'm going to throw out as a pivot off of that defense. But I just think that the Chiefs actually have a pretty good shot at defense as well of getting there, even though you wouldn't think of it in a 51 total. I think it's possible. The other spot I'm targeting heavily, Baltimore hosting the Rams. Rams, no Lamar Jackson. We just got word on that. Rams are now 7-point favorites, but it was already trending that Lamar wasn't going to be playing in this game. This is the last stand for the Ravens. But guess what? The Ravens secondary completely shredded. The injury bugs have caught up to them. I talked about this in my season preview of the Ravens, that they were long overdue to have regression due to injury. It just happened to catch them at the worst possible point in the season. It is what it is. But I like the Tyler Huntley side, because to me, Cooper Kupp has the easiest floor, in my opinion. Now, Cooper Kupp is so expensive at $9,500 on DraftKings, and the FanDuel pricing, it's just through the roof this week. The problem is, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing Cooper Kupp, even at these prices. The floor is there. The floor is there. The question is, can you get the ceiling game? And I think you can still get the ceiling game. So, to me, Cooper Kupp, there's nothing wrong with playing Cooper Kupp this week. The question is, can you win a Millie Maker format with Cooper Kupp? I'm not entirely sold on the $20 Millie Maker. But in the high-stakes Millie Maker, that's the 222, I definitely think you can play Cooper Kupp. I'm not going to shy away from that. So, being fully transparent, I will be leaning more towards Van Jefferson than Cooper Kupp. But that's just from a roster construction standpoint. I still like Mark Andrews, and I still like Tyler Huntley. Now, do I think Stafford could shred this defense? Yeah. But I also think the Rams are going to mix it up more than what happened in terms of what the Bengals did last week. So I think Sony Michel's in play. I think they're going to do motion, but I think they do spread it around. So, again, I will have Cooper Kupp exposure. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I think, if it's a question of Jonathan Taylor versus Cooper Kupp, I don't think that's the right question. I think it's what's the trade-off from another player on the really issue becomes like going off of Jonathan Taylor in a smash spot against the Raiders run defense that is atrocious versus Cooper Kupp against the Ravens secondary that's terrible, and when you can do Van Jefferson. The thing is, the running back plays this week, there aren't that many plays at running back that I think are solid enough to justify getting off of in the high stakes context. That I don't think it's enough to justify getting off of them. I don't. So that's where I kind of look at it and say, I am more leaning towards getting after the I'm more in line with getting after the Colts run game side, because I know the Rams passing game should be good and viable, and I like Van Jefferson more than OBJ. But even OBJ, I'll have some sprinkle of. But I just think that Van Jefferson's a better play than OBJ this week. So to me, again, it comes down to roster construction, and I think the Ravens are gonna get blown out here. I think the Rams win by 10, and Michel comes into play. I just don't think he comes into play enough to be truly fantasy viable. In cash games, yes. Higher stakes, I don't necessarily see it. In terms of upside, I still like David Montgomery more against the Giants. I just, I think that's just a no-brainer. But to me, that's where I'm leaning towards is when we get into some of these spots, I think Stafford is certainly in play. As I said, with the Ravens side, I like Andrews. I'm looking here. It looks like Marquise Brown is active. So with Marquise Brown active, I think Ramsey's concentration is more going to be on Marquise Brown and not so much on Andrews. Just because it's easy to me, it's easier for Ramsey to lock down Marquise Brown than trying to body up Mark Andrews in the slot. I don't think that's a good matchup in general for Ramsey. So to me, I like Andrews in the matchup, and I think you play Tyler Huntley with Andrews. You have the ability to play Jonathan Taylor, who we'll get to, and then play Van Jefferson instead. I just think it's harder if you get off of Jonathan Taylor to get that point scoring aside with some of these plays. That that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's the way I'm looking at it. Next up, Indy hosting the Raiders. We've got a 46 total. Carson Wentz is back under center. This line shifted so many times this week with Carson Wentz being under COVID protocols. No one knew he was going to be playing. The NFL changed their rules midweek. So now, Carson Wentz did clear enough days to get there. So, again, that puts Pittman back in play. It helps make life easier for Jonathan Taylor. Again, the Raiders' run defense is terrible. It's a bottom 3 in the league. I love Jonathan Taylor in this spot. I mean, the Colts need to rack up more wins to guarantee that playoff spot. And they're 9-6. 7.5-point favorites. This is just a smash spot for the Colts. I think they run it right down the Raiders' throats. While the Colts could do play action, I think this is a Jonathan Taylor spot where he goes for $120, $150, and peels off at least one big run in this matchup. To me, it's built for it. And when we get into this script, we were looking for the run backs. No Darren Waller again. Could you go Hunter Renfrow? But he's priced up, so it's a bit expensive. I like Zay Jones at 3,900, and he's also very cheap on FanDuel as well. I mean, basically, when we kind of get into this spot, you're looking for a little bit offense from the Raiders to make sure that the Colts, because the Colts are still going to run it with Taylor no matter what, but I think it's a little bit lower owned where it's going to be less obvious for teams to be in that spot. I kind of look at this as a unique spot where, yes, Jonathan Taylor's going to be highly owned, but you're still going to see, realistically, there's going to be more of a focus in terms of the general setup being that the Colts still pounding the rock. So to me, you can also go Foster Moreau in the tight end spot. Because I'm on the Andrew side, I don't think this is necessarily a double tight end week, so not as keen on going down that road, but it can get there. It's just you need more factors to work out in your favor, and Moreau is definitely lower on the pecking order for Carr than just checking up for Renfrow or Zay Jones in a come from behind script. So to me, I like Jones more than Renfrow. I think with the salary savings getting off of Renfrow, you can get into other spots as well, especially because we're paying up at other positions too. So not going too crazy with these pieces. Next up, Miami traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans. Terrible weather forecast on this one. So lots of rain, looks ugly. I don't want interest in this game from a fantasy perspective. I was interested in Jalen Waddle and A.J. Brown, but weather just does not look good, and I don't trust these quarterbacks enough in bad weather to get me what I need from them. So while Jalen Waddle had a nice price tag at 6,700, and you could have done a run back with A.J. Brown, I don't know. It's like Waddle 6,700 on DraftKings, 7K on FanDuel. It's just like it was a great spot. Then we got the weather, and I just don't want to be messing around and get caught my pants down on this. So it's like it's just not a great feeling when you play yourself into a weather game, even though you love to play, but the weather just is not cooperating. It's just there are way too many ways for this game to fail now. I don't want to be messing around with it. So Tennessee's favored by 3. Yeah, the Titans can win it with bad weather, but I don't think it's a crazy thing to go with Miami's side either. It's just a game where I'm just not that interested in. I'm just going to kind of cross it off. Moving on. My lowly New York Football Giants traveling to Chicago to play the Bears. Cold game in the forecast. Snow expected as well. Bears have Andy Dalton under center, 6.5-point favorites. The Giants rolling out a 2-quarterback tandem of Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. They're both terrible, so someone's getting picked. We might even get a pick 6. I love the Bears defense here. First and foremost, the Bears defense is my highest owned exposure of the entire week. I don't see where the Giants are scoring effectively in this game. Yeah, could they get a garbage touchdown late? Yeah, certainly. But I think there were sacks. I think there were turnovers. The Giants may or may not be facing out Saquon Barkley. Like, there's a whole mess of things going on with the Giants right now that I want no part of. But I do think that Bears defense is healthy enough to cause a number of issues for a depleted Giants team. And then the reason why I like the David Montgomery play that I really haven't heard from people, Dexter Lawrence is out on the COVID list. So not only did you lose Leonard Williams, you lost the other defensive tackle that was the run stopper on the Giants in Dexter Lawrence. The Giants don't really have that much to stop the run. So even if you don't like David Montgomery at 6,500, it's not that it's a lock that he's going to smash the slate and get 20 plus points. It's more along the lines of the floor is safe enough that if he doesn't get 15, you're kind of surprised, because I think he gets into the end zone at least once, and he's likely to catch some dump offs from Dalton. So I'm not saying that he's a lock for 20, but I think it's a lock to say he gets 16. And in this slate where you got a bunch of low totals, I think that's enough not to get too cute if you correlate it with the Bears defense, which I think it's the clear-cut play on the slate at 3,200. Yes, you can play other defenses, but I think the Giants are most likely, outside of this Minnesota game tonight where we don't have Kirk Cousins due to the COVID protocols, I think this is the most clear-cut, lopsided matchup in terms of defense versus QB matchup. I just don't see the Giants scoring today. I really don't. So, it is what it is. So don't overthink it. Philly traveling to Washington to play the football team. Washington free fall implosion Sunday night. Just a bad look overall. Are they going to get stomped by Philly? I don't necessarily think so, but I don't see how Philly doesn't win this game. Philly's favored by 6. This line originally was at 3. We don't know if Washington's sticking with Heineke. It looks like Heineke's the starter, but there's a chance Kyle Allen comes into play. That's what we again, when we have these two QB situations, let's not get too cute with how we're playing the game. The only issue with the Philly side is no Miles Sanders, but it looks like we're going to have a triumvirate at running back, because we got Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and Kenneth Gainwell all likely to see touches for Philly. On the Washington side, we also have a triumvirate because Gibson's on COVID list, where we're going to see Jarrett Patterson, Jonathan Williams, and Wendell Smallwood, the former Eagle. Again, from fantasy side, I had more interest in this game when it was a possibility of Howard being out. I'm off of Scott for that reason. I like Dallas Goedert. You can pair him with a Hurts lineup, but again, Hurts, there's only so much upside here at his price tag versus some of the other scrambling QBs we've got on deck here. I don't want to necessarily go too crazy with builds involving him, so we'll leave it at that. Next up, Tampa traveling to New York. I don't know why I misread that. We know the Bucs are in New York this week. I mean, this Jets team is terrible, but Tampa doesn't have that much to play for, to be honest. Yes, there are incentive contracts for both Antonio Brown and Mike Evans. The issue is Mike Evans just coming off of a hamstring injury. They already lost Godwin for the year. You really think Tampa's going to risk that much with AB? I think Brady puts up big numbers in the first half, and I can see them shutting it down and coasting with Ronald Jones to close out the second half. I like AB on DraftKings only. DraftKings, they mispriced him. He's 6,100. AB can get there with value on DraftKings, and if he gets 2 touchdowns, I mean, it's kind of a wrap this week. If AB gets 2 touchdowns in the first half, which is possible against this Jets secondary. So let's not kid ourselves. But that's kind of it. I don't think they really like Ronald Jones, but yeah, they'll run Ronald Jones at 6,300. But I like Montgomery way more. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot more. I just don't necessarily get that caught up with Ronald Jones, and I think Keyshawn Vaughn might get some passing game work with Brady, because we saw Ronald Jones just miss some easy dump offs with Brady. I think Brady is going to kind of call on Keyshawn Vaughn this week. So if you want to get different, Keyshawn Vaughn at 5,200, it's not that crazy of a play, in my opinion. Anything from the Jets, Braxton Berrios is 3,700 and is going to see work in the slot again. Now, everyone, there's still going to be a ton of ownership on him. I get it. I like the Zay Jones play more for GPP formats as a run back to playing Jonathan Taylor than I would playing Berrios with AB, but I will have plenty of Berrios and AB lineups. So that, to me, that's not that crazy. But yeah, I like Berrios. I know you can do Michael Carter in AB lineups. So Michael Carter in the running back spot at 5,100. I don't think there's anything wrong with going that route. But yeah, it's one of those things where we can kind of debate the merits of certain plays, but this Tampa team is going to put up points on the Jets. I think they coast in the second half. So could the Jets backdoor cover? Certainly. But I think Tampa does put up points. It's a 47.5 total. They're looking at Tampa to score 30 plus points. I think Tampa could get to 24 by halftime, and then they just coast. So do with that what you will. I'm not going too crazy on Tampa bets. Have them in some teasers, but I'm not going that crazy. That brings us to the 4:00 window. We got Chargers hosting the Broncos. Chargers need to win this one, obviously. They've squandered so many opportunities this year. Looking to rebound from that Houston debacle. I'm going to take the Chargers. If they drop this one, I don't know what else to say. The Broncos aren't good. The Broncos are missing a bunch of offensive linemen. There are enough bad warning flag signs for the Broncos to say stay away. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Not really interested in playing pieces from the Broncos side with the linemen out because, yeah, you could look at Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, but I just think with the offensive line issues, I don't want to mess around with that. On the Chargers side, you have Jared Cook out with COVID protocol, so we have either Steven Anderson or Trey McKitty filling the role at tight end. Most of the projections are going to go with Anderson. I think it's more of a 50-50 to me, so I'm going to have a goofy build where I save salary because they're both 2,500. So you could play a Herbert lineup with both tight ends and just tie up at dirt cheap. Yeah, one will probably fail, but by tying up those positions, you can fit in a lot of studs. I'll leave it at that. Just to give you an idea of a GPB build in large field to get different, I think you can kind of go down that road. I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just giving you an idea of what you can kind of come up with. Now, let's see. What else do we got here? Carolina, New Orleans, really no interest in this game. New Orleans, 7-point favorites. Taysom back under center. Could you play Kamara? Yeah, but I like Deontay Harris. Deontay Harris is back from his COVID suspension from not being vaccinated, and basically had a 3-week suspension. Was all again, it was a suspension, not out sick due to COVID. So to me, he should be healthy, ready to go, and hit the ground running. At 3K, he's Taysom's favorite receiver. He's dirt cheap. He's 3K. I love this spot in the afternoon window. It fills so many of my builds. I'm going to target this Carolina secondary. We know Taysom isn't very good at throwing, but he has a rapport with Deontay Harris that's good enough to have me consider the spot, because I think he can get to 10, and if he gets me 10 or more, even if he gets into the end zone, I am basically minted with the other guys I'm playing this week. So, listen, I think this is a spot to kind of avoid outside of the Deontay Harris play. And yeah, could you play Taysom at 6K in the QB spot on DraftKings? Yeah. FanDuel pricing, it's not too bad. But I just think that there are other opportunities here. I just don't see a ton of scoring in this matchup with a 37 total. We talked about this Monday Night Football. 37 total. Vegas telling you this thing is going to be a defensive struggle. But I think Deontay Harris can get underneath pass work as well. So I like it. I definitely like it. What else we got? Yeah, Detroit and Seattle. Another rough game. Weather issues in Seattle. I like the running backs here. DeAndre Swift is back for Detroit. I like Rashad Penny for Seattle. Swift is 6K. Penny is 6,100. That's it. That's it for both of these teams. I want nothing else to do with either one of these teams. Like all the other pieces, no, because Jared Goff is doubtful. You still can't trust the Seattle passing game. I want no other interest in this game. And I'll leave it at that. It's just way too much issues to deal with. Next up, Arizona, traveling to Dallas. Arizona in free fall. Dallas essentially surging after that Sunday night beatdown of Washington. Here's the thing. Could Dallas score a bunch of points? It's a 52 total. I think this game busts. I don't see Arizona's defense doing that much on Dallas's defense. I like the Cowboys defense. This is my pivot off of playing the Bears against the Giants. Dallas defense is 3,200. They are opportunistic. I think they can get a touchdown off of Arizona with their aggressive play calling. I like Dallas's defense, but I also think the under hits here. I think Dallas can turn this into a running game, and I think they will turn this into a running game. I'm not as sold on Dallas's passing attack this week, and I know the Cardinals are statistically a good run defense. Technically, they're supposed to be a good run defense. Dallas's offensive line, and Tyron Smith is supposed to be in. Dallas offensive line, I think, wins that matchup. So that's just me, but I think this game goes under. I think this is the afternoon spot that busts. I'm not going to be on this game that much. Just personally speaking, I know people are talking up Michael Gallup. I know people are talking up Christian Kirk. I'm just not on this game. I just don't like this game. Something tells me this game is the one that busts. I have way more confidence in the Kansas City-Cincinnati game shooting out than in this game in the afternoon shooting out. So to me, I'm more concentrated on the early window. I'm not going to go too crazy about the afternoon games. And then Sunday Night Football, we got Green Bay, Minnesota. We'll talk about this debacle later on, but no Kirk Cousins tonight. This is a mess. Monday Night Football, Steelers and Browns. We'll talk about that later as well. I mean, woo, got some dog matchups late. I'll just leave it at that. But let's get out of here because we got to get this uploaded. It's a lot going on today. So best of luck to everyone today. Like I said, I'm big on Jonathan Taylor. You'll see me with exposure to the Cincinnati Chiefs game. You'll see me exposure to Baltimore and the Rams, and we'll kind of roll from there. But best of luck, everyone, and good luck today.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.